Hey everybody, it is Friday, 12 noon. I don't know why I always look over at the date. I know it is July 31st. How do we get to July 31st? I don't even know, but this is crazy because July 31st means my first novel ever is coming out on Monday, which is August 3rd. I'm so freaking out, but I'm so excited because today I have Chelsey with me. I think she just joined on here, so let me just add her in. Yes, we're connecting. See if my volume is good. It's waiting, it's connecting, checking signal, connecting now.
Hi.
Chelsey, can you hear me? Oh, there
I
you
can
are.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay, let me just get where's my AirPods didn't connect. Oh no. It's usually easier to hear. Uh, technical, technical. Let me just see what happened. Hold on one
Okay.
second. Are you there?
Oh,
There you are.
can
Good.
you
Yeah,
hear
I
me?
paused it. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay,
Sorry. My
cool.
my AirPods did not connect because I was using
Oh,
it with my computer earlier, which is so annoying. I hope I didn't lose
yes.
some people. They're probably coming right back because they saw me pause it. So I am so sorry about
No
that.
problem.
It's so great to see you. We got to chat
I
on the phone
know.
briefly, but for all those people watching, when we do the chats, we don't talk about the cycle so that we could dive into the fan questions. You look
Yes.
amazing. You look
Oh,
exactly the
thanks.
same. Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
thank you. That's good to hear because I've had two kids, so I feel like I
I
feel a lot
know.
older.
Tell everybody how old they are right now. I know, but
They are 5 and 6,
five and
boy and girl.
six,
So
boy and girl. So
yes,
they
very
keep you
busy.
running. They keep you
Yeah, they
super
do.
running. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I can't even tell you. So many people were waiting for this chat because look, they're going T T T at the bottom T, and everyone is saying you look exactly the same as you were in your
Oh,
cycle.
thank you.
Like they're all saying it. Chelsey, you look exactly the same. You look
Uh,
great. Oh my God, they love you. And they did love you. I was reading the questions, and so many people felt, and I'll get to the questions in one moment, but everyone felt this was your season to win. They love Anne. No shade to Anne. There was no shade to Anne, but they were like, this was Chelsey's season.
well,
So, how do
thank
you
you.
feel about that? Getting all that love from the fans?
Oh, it's so sweet. It makes me feel good.
Hmm.
It was an amazing experience. So I'm glad everybody enjoyed it along the way with me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So as I texted you right before we went live, I was like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even narrow down the questions. Look, everyone's already starting with one of the big questions. The
Yeah.
big questions, I'm going to get to it. I know I already see it going down there, but let's remind everybody who was in the house. So it was Anna Maria, Kendall, Rihanna, Chris, Jane,
Hmm.
yourself, Liz,
Hmm.
Sarah, Lexi, Esther, Casey, Kayla, love Kayla too, Anne and
Yeah.
Tara. So that was the first group of 14. And again, before I dive into the questions, what is that feeling like when you get that call that you're going to be part of casting? How did you feel?
Oh, it was surreal. I never thought in a million years, especially when I tried out. There's so many people that try out just in my city alone that I went to. So
Hmm.
to be called back for the semifinals and then to be called for the final 14, it was like one
Yes.
unbelievable moment after the other. So
Yes.
it was
And this
amazing.
was and this was the huge high fashion season. And we're going to dive into those questions because everyone, they keep writing tea. We want tea. And so we're going to talk about the high fashion season. And you know what? I'm actually going to be really, really honest and transparent today because, a couple people called me out in the last couple of chats. They said, Jay, you started off by telling just all the tea, like the real tea,
Yeah.
the behind the scenes scoop. And they said the last few chats, they felt like I was being safe. And you know what? I'm going to agree with what those people wrote. I think I was being a little more safe. And to be really honest with you and everybody watching, I started to feel safe or started kind of handling these conversations in a safer way because I know people are watching them and it's all under scrutiny. And now it's like, well, what am I saying? What am I not saying? And that's not fair to everyone who's tuning in because they want the scoop. So I'm going to speak about a little more scoop today from my perspective of what I witnessed and saw. And we'll start with the first question, but there's two questions
Okay.
from rebel_heart91. And she starts off by just saying, how the hell did Top Model get a high fashion cycle? Tyra was so mellow this cycle. Was she told to tone it down? So Chelsey, you probably experienced such a shift when the show started, because now it was high fashion. Everything was very, very, very serious. But
Yes.
what you may not have known is that, yeah, there was huge pressure from the network to Tyra because the show had jumped the shark. When we did the short cycle, I mean, a lot of the creative, I mean, I had nothing to do with it. Like, we were all rolling our eyes behind the scenes, like super smize and all this stuff. It got so corny, which
Yeah.
is really her personality. And I
Yeah.
think fans, they originally liked the show having a personality, but then it got corny. And so the ratings really kind of spiraled down. So the network says, you have to do something. You were going to look for America's Next Top Model. We need high fashion. They'd already brought Andre in. And
Yeah.
so, leading into the next question this is from Zinta.Sue. Did you know the reason for the switch up of the prizes, including IMG, et cetera, and Italian Vogue? It was all part of a way of, okay, we've got this franchise that's huge around the world. Now, how do we make it big again? And how do we make it legitimate? Did you feel walking into this that it felt more real because of the prizes, et cetera?
Yeah. I mean, in the initial casting process, you don't know what to expect. I can't relate it to other seasons because I've only been on the one. But I remember being in Palm Springs, sitting by that like lemonade stand or whatever it was.
Yes, yeah.
She came out and told us, and that was for reals. That was the first time we all had heard the prizes and that it would be IMG and that it would be still CoverGirl, but Vogue Italia. And so that is when, to me personally, I knew like, wow, first I thought this is my season. This is the one I'm meant to be on. And then the next thought was, I can't believe that they got that big. I mean,
yeah.
those are huge prizes. So
yeah, they are. And people are writing down below. I was just reading them as you were talking. First of all, someone said you're giving us Lauren Hutton realness. You're so beautiful. So many great comments because you are so stunning. And
Thanks.
Someone said, yeah, but a couple people wrote, but the show jumped the shark again with the All-Star cycle and cycle 18, and it got really corny again. And the answer to that, whoever wrote that story, I missed your username there, but that's because the high fashion cycle just didn't work. And for many reasons we're going to talk about in these questions here today, it didn't work. The show actually continued to lose ratings. I personally felt all the magic was gone in this cycle on many fronts, but it was, I'm so glad that I got to speak with you today. So I'm going to tell you something that you don't know. Okay. About my feelings for you during the competition. When we got to Italy, and remember when we were doing that shoot in the gondola, the high fashion style shoot, I think you had like this like wire cone bra over top. Yeah. The thing was very
like
high.
Madonna bra is all I could think of. Yeah.
I remember thinking that day, because I really connected with Kayla, and we'll talk about that because there are a lot of questions about her, and I loved her just energy, and I felt like I wanted to be her protector. And you were that person for me who was like, you are the ultimate contestant because you knew your fashion, you had your dream. And I was like, this is my winner. This is my winner. Aww. And the thing that you don't know is in that final judging, and I'm just saying this right off the top of the chat, I was like, I love Anne. I see everything you guys see, but I think Chelsey's the winner. So,
well, thank you.
I wanted you to know that, and you've never heard me say that before. No, so
I haven't. I appreciate it very much, and I paid a lot of attention to feedback from photographers and people like you, and I always got a great feeling with you. So I appreciate that. Appreciate hearing that.
So I wanted to tell you in front of the world.
Thank you.
So here's a great question for you. It's from Melisa14. Who was your Chelsey? Who was your best friend in the house, and who was the most difficult to get along with?
Okay. Well, I was super close with Sarah. We met like the first day in casting in LA. And so we went
Mm-hmm.
through that whole casting process together. And then, so she was the first person I met. And then to make it in the house with her, we were super close. It was really exciting. But because she left so early, too early,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know, everybody, the less people, the closer we all got. I definitely got really close with Kayla. I feel like
Wasn't
probably Kayla.
yeah, Kayla, I could totally see that because I saw how you and Kayla were together too. I actually remember when the cameras weren't rolling and we were kind of, remember we were being shuttled in that ferry thing and like you and Kayla, I just remember,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I remember we just all had like a little moment. I just
Yeah.
love those moments together, even the moments that
Yeah.
the fans didn't get to see. So yeah,
Definitely. Yeah. The top six, I think we all, especially when we went to Italy, we all got really close. So,
yeah, for
you
sure.
know, there are things I was actually rewatching the last few episodes yesterday just to kind of refresh my memory. And,
Hmm.
um, you know, it, it really was what you guys saw on
You guys
TV.
bonded.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we did. We really bonded. As far as somebody who I didn't get along with, I think it was obvious. I think Casey was hard to get along with
Yeah.
for everybody.
Yeah.
And again, we didn't have a ton of time together. It was just that first half
And
while we were in.
she didn't go abroad. That's right. Because
Right.
yeah, she stayed. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
people are writing down below, and it is a question, but since a lot of people are writing it, like who came up with that roller coaster challenge? You know what? I'll be honest with you.
mm,
Some producer, it was the dumbest thing. I remember Miss J saying, "Oh, we got to go off and sell this." Even Nigel goes along with everything. If he's told, oh, jump, he'll do it. But even he was like, "Oh God, like that was horrible." I felt so bad for you guys.
it was horrible. I think I I pride myself on knowing how to work in front of a camera, and that is not the same thing. It
Roller
was horrible.
coaster. It was
It was so
stupid.
hideous.
So, hey Queemy, I think that's how you pronounce it. Hey Queemy says to Chelsey, did you ever have a second thought about widening your gap after Tyra told you that that was part of the makeover, but afraid to say no, that it might cost you an elimination? And that kind of refers back to someone else who wrote, Tom Shees said, was Chelsey forced to widen her gap when in cycle 6, Danny was forced to have hers closed? So it seemed a little bit of this contradictory,
Yeah.
like Tyra speaking out of two sides of her mouth. And that's what the fans, there were tons of questions about this.
Yes, I
How did
definitely
you
get that
feel?
personally.
Yeah.
So I can't again speak for Danny and her cycle,
Hmm.
or where Tyra's vision was then, and I feel like fashion was in a different direction, or maybe because I think having it be the high fashion cycle had a lot to do with it. And I had no problem. Nobody forced me. You didn't see it on the show, but the producers, it was a very thorough process. It was
Hmm.
Tyra's idea, but I felt very comfortable if I wanted to say no. They had me sign paperwork.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, they read off of, all this, like, basically made me feel very comfortable. If I wanted to say no, they would cut it out. It wouldn't have even been part of it. It's no big deal. And it was like the smallest smallest difference in my teeth. I actually, most people don't know, but my gap used to be bigger as a kid. I had my
Like
frenum.
a like bonding or something on it?
No,
Or,
it was too long, and so as my adult teeth were growing in, it was like widening, and so the dentist cut it out, and it stopped, and so my gap stopped widening.
mm,
I have a picture so you guys can see. You can also
yeah.
see that I had no eyebrows, courtesy of being 13, but it's so it was really big.
Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so when they told me that they wanted to widen it, I was like, I've already had it bigger. As a kid, it was bigger. So, and when I got home, my parents didn't even notice a difference. Like they didn't,
Gotcha.
nobody that knows me really well even could tell a difference. So
Oh, good.
it
So
was
that's good to know.
super, yeah, it was, I think that it was a really good idea. And I think they probably could have even widened it a little bit more, but I know that they were being conservative on,
Hmm.
it's a permanent thing,
I think,
unlike
yeah,
hair or, stuff like
sure.
that. So I think they were conservative on what they did with it, and
And you
they,
do. And you absolutely did kind of favor that Lauren Hutton vibe still today. I mean, you're so stunning and you look
Oh,
great
thank
with the
you.
gap. I'm actually glad
Thanks.
to hear that the producers really, really, really took that time and gave you the opportunity to say no and they would cut it out. That's actually really,
Yeah,
because
I felt
I
like,
know a lot of stuff that has gone on behind the scenes. I was not involved with that at all, but it's
right.
nice to know that they did take that kind of care with you. So I'm glad to hear
Yes.
that actually.
Yeah,
Uh,
it was a big they were very
cool.
careful and very respectful of my feelings and what I thought about it. So it was
Perfect.
just as much my decision as it was Tyra's or producers or anybody. So
Good. Great.
yeah.
So Ellen dot Frodlova, I think I pronounced that correct, Frodlova. Um, she's asking, why did you eliminate Tara? It seemed really unfair and unnecessary drama. And I believe someone else, yes, I'm not Defon, wrote, why did you cut Tara's hair just to send her home immediately after? See, it was so heartbreaking, especially being that I thought she had more potential than a few others that stayed. And you know what's interesting about Tara, I think in that moment, first of all, we knew from a production standpoint that after makeovers, there would be a mid-show elimination. So it wasn't just like, oh, you know, Tara was sent back. No, this was
Right.
literally about one girl who was
Right.
going to be eliminated. It was the person who didn't embody their makeover. It had nothing
Right.
to do if they shed tears or whatever.
Right.
It was just that moment. Do you remember us like
I
hitting you guys
do.
with that
Yeah.
bombshell?
I do remember it. And everybody got the vibe that as we're getting, we're in our like white tank tops and our white bikinis for that reveal photo shoot. It felt very much like you got to rock. I remember you telling us, or at least me, you got to rock that look. You got to really feel comfortable with what they just
Mm-hmm.
did. And so I knew that it was going to be important. I don't think any of us knew that somebody was going to go home, but it definitely
Mm-hmm.
didn't feel
And
like
it wasn't
like
geared
nobody.
towards her.
Right,
Yeah,
no. And
everyone
I don't
thinks it's
even think
a
you guys were around when we were getting our hair cut and colored and stuff. It like the tears were natural and they were real and the cameras caught it,
mm-hmm.
but I think that was a separate part of
Yeah,
the creative and what the photo shoot was and what we
yeah,
delivered in it. So I
yeah.
don't think that it was gear, it was to attack her or to pick on her. I think that you guys sounds like you had it planned to eliminate somebody, but I don't think it was based
Mm-hmm.
on, tears
And
or
and and a lot of people are writing here that Anna Maria was eliminated because she was just too skinny. And there are a lot of questions that come up about it. I'm sure we'll get to them. I'm just going to go through in order. But I remember reading people saying, "Well, didn't you see her in casting?" and etc. And the thing was, she was thinner because people don't realize casting and the show kind of take place a little with a
there's a
big
time
gap.
frame.
There's a
Yeah, there's a
time
time
frame,
gap.
and it was like there was a noticeable for us. We were kind of shocked. There was a weight loss between casting
Yes.
and the series. It's like what like was almost 3 weeks in between, and there
Mm-hmm.
was a noticeable weight loss, and that was scary. So
Yes.
I want you guys to know you see it all put together like 1 week, next week. There's a gap, but
Mm-hmm.
once we start shooting the show, we shoot 7 days a week.
Yes. And
Yeah.
we all, I can't remember if we noticed it in Palm Springs because even the semifinals is a few weeks before
Yeah.
we get picked, or
You didn't notice it. Yeah.
right. And then so when she calls us out and we're the final 14, we go home and we have a period of time at home still. It's a few weeks, I believe.
Yeah.
We didn't just go straight to the house. And so when we got to the house, we all noticed it.
See, they're all saying, "Ooh,
It was
that's interesting
frightening.
to know." And
Yeah, it
yeah, and
was
someone else just wrote, they were like, "Yeah, weight loss in 3 weeks." Exactly. That was the
it
concern.
was very noticeable. And so
Very
like
noticeable.
from day one of casting until I went in the house, I had gained a few pounds because I thought I was really thin when I look back at casting week and I come into in my bikini and talking to you guys. I actually had I got sick with a water parasite right before like the first
Casting.
casting. And so
Mm,
I had lost more weight than I normally weighed.
mhm.
And so when I went into the house, I was a little bit fuller and I remember thinking, oh, I hope it doesn't make a difference. And it didn't. I don't know if anybody even noticed it, but it showed me like we had enough time at home that
Yeah,
it was
very
very
diff it was
noticeable
very
when she came back. It
when
was
she
like,
and she was very defensive about it, even with me on
yes.
set in the first photo shoot, which the next question is, this is from Yvette.0317. It says, "Hi, Jay and Chelsey. In the first photo shoot with the positive and negative words written all over the body,
Tyra did one with the girls about I guess again one sure Tyra did one-on-ones with the girls about the words that were chosen. I felt Tyra was doing this for TV and it wasn't being real, but what do you think? Was she really genuine, and did she care about the girls? How did you feel about her when you sat with her? Did you feel like it was just for production, or did you feel like it was genuine?
No, I felt it was very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she called us into a room by ourselves, and I assume the cameras followed because some of it was on TV. Oh, well, and they
Mm-hmm.
followed us everywhere.
Yeah, it was
But
on TV. Yeah.
yeah, but it was very private. You know, none of us were in there. She made sure the other girls were in there, and so at least for me, it felt personal. And she had a big message in that first photo shoot.
Mm-hmm.
The bullying and the you know, negativity. It felt like a very big passion project for her, and so it felt very sincere to me.
It really was. And we brought Demi Lovato in.
Yeah.
And when I set up the shoot, which leads into Zinata.su's question, she wrote a lot of questions. She goes, you don't have to use them all. There were so many. But her question goes, do you know the reason for the switch up in prizes, which we talked about? But two, she said, on the bullying episode, you wore the Band Geek t-shirt as I tore it off, and it said creative genius or something underneath. And you spoke about the stereotypes you had in school. I heard you were in theater, etc. What instrument did you play? I actually played piano since I was 3, but I played trombone in the band all the way into, I even was in an orchestra when I was in high school. But yeah, that photo shoot, so back to, I keep saying, everyone's like, whoa, Jay's not spilling the tea. So I did watch this episode. Well, I scrolled through the episodes. I normally don't, but I did watch it yesterday. And I thought last night, you know, I should really share honestly what was going on. And this is like a big spoiler for people. So that first photo shoot, Chelsey, and I remember all the girls whispering behind the scenes, like, this doesn't feel like Top Model. It's really strange. It's really quiet in here. We had this lovely female photographer, and she was kind of directing you guys. And I was just sitting behind a monitor, silent.
It felt like a normal
word.
photo shoot to me, a normal fashion photo shoot, but it didn't feel like
Top Model. It was very, very weird. So again, as I said earlier, there was all this pressure to do this high fashion cycle. So no one translated to the talent, meaning myself, you know, Miss Jane, what that was going to mean, and even around even production and how we're producing. So I had not even an executive producer, not even a co-executive producer. It was a senior producer who is still a friend of mine today. His name is David St. John. He did a lot of your interviews, you know, David.
I remember him, yeah.
So David came into my dressing room. We still kind of chuckle about this moment. And this is years ago now, but he came into my dressing room 10 minutes before we started shooting that photo shoot. And he said, Jay, so, you know, things are going to be a little different this cycle. Has anyone spoken to you? And I said, about what? Oh, shoot, I guess I'm going to have to be the one to tell you. Because we're going high fashion, they've made the decision. I said, well, who's they? So this is Ken Mock, Tyra, whoever else. You're not going to talk during photo shoots. Just let the photographers talk. And you'll just sit there. And afterwards you'll set up the photo shoot. I did not produce the photo shoots in this season. I only produced the runway show because no one wanted to touch that, which we'll get to. And literally, he told me this 10 minutes before we started the shoot. I'd already done the intro. So I taped that intro with you girls. Remember when you went off to hair and makeup? Where I took off the band geek? Then I was in my dressing room and they came in and said, so when we start shooting the first girl, you're not going to direct them. And I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
Like, now, we're talking about a show that has a whole pre-production period. But see, they're slick. They knew if they told us this stuff, the same way Miss J was always blindsided and his work was just kind of reduced. They would tell us as we did it. Like, they did not tell. And keep in mind, Tyra was going to be at that set. But did you notice how Tyra wasn't in the intro with me?
Right, it was you that
because
talked to us
it was
first.
just me, and I was in a good mood, and I looked like I'm in a great mood. Hey girls, first photo shoot. I was told this, all cut out. Of course, none of this is on camera. I was told this in the dressing room, and then we said we've got our first girl up. So I was like, fine. You want to have the photographer shoot, and you want me to just sit silent? I said, what exactly am I doing? They're like, you can just watch the monitor. So if you actually go
Oh
back and watch
gosh.
that episode and the cutaways, I was blindsided with this between my
Huh.
introduction and this, and then I sat there watching the monitor like an idiot. And if you look
Oh
at the
my
cutaways, I
gosh.
look so vexed, but there's a reason why I was told
Yeah.
this. And then Tyra shows up, very Tyra. She doesn't want to talk
Hmm.
about anything because Tyra's so non-confrontational. Hi, Mr. J. And she's like, hi, girls. I'm not
Yeah.
going to talk about it. She didn't want to talk about it. The
Huh.
day the energy in the room was horrible. And then
It felt very weird
two-thirds the
for
way
sure.
through the, yeah, it felt weird. And then two-thirds the way through the day, Tyra pulled the producers aside and said, this isn't working. This isn't working. Have
Oh, good.
Jay, BJ. And actually towards, I forget which girls it was, but towards the end of the day, they were like, just please have him direct the girls. And so
Yeah,
that's what I did. So that's
I
the
was gonna
real
say I
tea.
remember you being in it, but that first one was it was a very long and weird and quiet day. That first one.
Yeah, the room was just silent
Huh.
because they were like, just sit there. So I was like, okay, I'll just sit there. So I
Wow.
sat there, watched the, and I felt so badly because the way I really work with the girls is I'm there to help them get their best photo, not just to
Yeah.
even talk, but the stuff that's not even edited. I'm really constantly working with you girls. And it was just
Hmm.
silent and there's no music because we
Yeah.
can't have music play. And all the girls felt awkward.
Awkward. Especially there was quite a few that had never done it, never been in front of a professional camera before, and I remember them. It was very awkward.
Yeah, it was
And
awkward for me because I couldn't say anything. I couldn't even tell you guys what just happened.
oh my
So,
gosh.
and someone said they just missed the tea. You guys are gonna have to rewind it to catch
Yeah.
this up. But basically, I was told not to talk to the girls in the first photo shoot. But thank God Tyra was there because
Yeah.
doing the one-on-ones, because literally it was like 4 p.m. She pulled all the producers aside and said, this does not work. Have Jay,
Good.
BJ, have him do what he does. She didn't
Yeah.
even say it to me. And nobody fucking apologized. And they literally dropped this bomb on me. And then how I was in my dressing room, of course I got upset. But then you
Yeah.
get labeled that you're, oh my God, he freaked out, blah, 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 blah. And those whispers went around production. And like right now, today at 47, I could really give a shit. But
Yeah.
I just was like, we were treated so badly at that point in time.
Oh.
I just didn't even
Oh.
want to be on the show anymore. That's the truth. But we will
Oh
move
my
on
gosh.
with
Well,
our
and
questions.
I'm glad that she brought you back into it because you helped me a lot. And I was an avid top model watcher, had no idea how much you truly had a hand in behind the scenes in the actual photo shoots. It
Yeah.
felt like to me you were very much a creative director in each photo shoot. I didn't realize you had a background in this industry that was so involved, and
Oh,
you
thank
weren't so you
you.
weren't just a personality on the show. And
Yeah. Thank you.
not everybody knows that, but I definitely that was very
Yeah.
something that I learned right away pretty much.
And I
You were
produced especially the early seasons, I was producing the shoot. I was hiring the creative. And the final runway, though, which you were in, again, no one wants to touch the runway. I did produce that and come up with the creative. And I'd worked with Roberto Cavalli over the years, and he used to dress me when I would host on the Grammy red carpet or what have you. And so working with him to create that very, fantastical show. I'll tell you all about how I came up with that sliding panel when we get to those questions. So Lady __ Hex Noir says, was Anna Maria set up? Feeling that she was too thin at casting, but I think we answered this question because her weight really fluctuated.
Yeah,
big time.
we actually before elimination that week, a bunch of us girls actually, and I don't think it was on, I don't think it aired, or maybe it did, but we all sat down with her and we were like, we told her we noticed a big difference in her, and
I don't think it aired.
Yeah. She was like, no, I'm not, like, I look fine, and doesn't matter what anybody says, I look fine. And so, like, it was so obvious to us that I feel like if the show and the producers and everybody in Tyra, if they didn't address it, it would have been a big faux pas because it was so obvious. Like, it was just not a healthy representation of what they wanted on the show.
Exactly.
And that's, we all felt it. So I thought, if we all feel it, I hope you guys do too. I hope you see it too. It was
a lot of people are writing down below, talk Kayla. And the next question actually is from Tom Shees, I think that's how you pronounce your username, Tomsches. I hope I pronounced that correctly. Why was Kayla forced to kiss a man? Couldn't you have gotten a female actress for her? So I think this is all referring to the whole H2T water on the roller skates kind of commercial thing where you have to kind of kiss the guy.
But we
at
ended
the
up not
end.
kissing him, right?
Yeah, well, he kind of like would kind of kiss,
like on the neck,
on the neck or whatever is
That's
what we
right.
decided. So the creative was always for you guys to kiss. That was always set up. Production did not know about what had happened with Kayla, and that moment between Kayla and I. So what people couldn't tell is, you were there, Chelsey. You know, I really do bond with all of you girls. I spend the most time with you, and Kayla really said, Jay, can I talk to you? Can I talk to you? And she took me aside. We went far away to talk, but the cameras were trying to capture our moment.
I remember
and
that.
I genuinely was so, I felt her pain. She was telling me very openly and honestly what had happened to her. She's never talked about it in that moment. It's obviously being captured on a camera. Thank God we were far away, so we were talking alone. But production did not know this. She did not bring it up in her psychological evaluations that you guys all go through. So she was not forced to kiss this guy. Again, we did talk as a group saying we didn't think there should be a lip kiss. But in a real life of a commercial, having a guy like kiss your neck, it's a very real moment. And, you know, in that moment, how are we going to get a female actress, like on the spur of the moment? Because we found out about it in that moment. And then we did ask her, and
I did, you asked her quite a bit.
Yeah, and separately from what they showed on TV, I said, "Are you okay?" And she's like, "Yeah, I can do this." And the producers pulled her aside and said, "Are you okay?" And she was okay. Yeah, and she did a great job. She looked great, and so that is the truth of that moment.
Yeah, she I don't feel like she was forced. I think she was, because we were told we were going to kiss them, and everybody was kind of like, ugh. And then they, in the moment, in that day, decided they changed it to the, you know, how it ended up turning out. And so I think that she was probably overwhelmed and upset, and however she felt talking, you know, when she was talking to you. Yeah. And then, but I know that she came out better knowing, I think, after talking to you and knowing that it wasn't going to be like an actual kiss. And so I do remember, though, you asking her in production, like everybody kind of pulled her aside and made sure she was okay, and she seemed okay. So
yeah, she was okay. She looked great in the commercial. A lot of your fans are saying, "I thought you were the best in that commercial, Chelsey." They were writing down below.
Oh, it was a struggle. I don't think I did it all.
So here's another one for you, and you can answer this one. Olivia.Tamac says, "Did Liz actually complain as much as was portrayed?" I know that answer.
Yes, and it definitely.
She complained a lot.
She did, and we were young, you know, and
that's what everyone forgets.
It's like I was one of the older girls, and I was 22. Like, you have to be 18 on the show, so you have that time frame of, or that age range of 18 to 23 or 24. I think Kendall was
24. Yeah.
And so we were young, and we were immature, and we were being silly, and you're pulled out of your normal world. So she did complain a lot, and it got worse as we went to Europe, because things were long, you know, the days were long. It was really hot.
Oh, I mean, so hot in Italy.
I complained, you know, it's like everything's muggy. There's no air conditioning anywhere. Like, you know, but she did. Yes.
We all had sweat dripping down our backs on days where, and we kept like forcing you guys even off camera, drink water.
Yes.
Because it was so hot. Author V. Cole says, "Clearly this season was rigged. In my opinion, I felt Chelsey was by far was much better and passionate about modeling. Was it true everyone in the house hated Casey? Is that true? Did everyone have issues with Casey?"
Yes.
Pretty much. Okay.
Yes. It felt like she wanted to be on TV, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah.
And it personally annoyed me, because the show, the TV aspect was the outlet for the experience, not the reason I went on that show. So it felt very much like that, and it kind of bothered everybody.
Yeah, we felt it too. You can tell when someone wants to be on TV for TV purposes. I knew you were just so passionate about the industry. You could feel it, and I think the fans felt it. That's why so many people have just, just so much love for you. I love seeing all the comments. They're like, "Love Chelsey." Maddie Boy 9895 says, what was up with Anne's 5 consecutive, photo of the week? I mean, she was a stunning model and definitely a front runner, but I felt that the judges were praising her too much. How did you guys feel in the house about that?
We were surprised, I think. You get a vibe on set and on a photo shoot, and we got to, I mean, for the most part, I think most of the shoots, especially in the beginning, we could pretty much be around and see, and we weren't like right there watching, but we could get the vibe from like you and the photographers and the feedback of each person, and kind of you get like a feeling like, oh dang, she killed it, or oh, like poor girl didn't do great, or something like that. And I wouldn't say for all 5 of her top photos that this was the case, but some of them, she, like the Lucha Libre, is that what that was called?
And there's a question about that one too coming up.
She got horrible feedback. She was crying at the end of it, and so it was really shocking to all of us that she got best photo. I can't remember who I would have thought should have got it, but none of us thought it would be her, and so it was surprising. It was surprising for sure. Yeah. There was something, I kind of felt there was a little something going on, and again, we were all kind of ousted slightly, and I'm talking about Nigel to an extent, Miss J, myself. Andre was still kind of in the inner circle, but as we went into the next cycle, which happens to be one of my favorites when we went to Morocco, etc., Andre was then being pushed out, because that's just what happens. A certain person loves to just wall off. When things aren't working, you get kind of pushed. No discussions, it's just what happens. But a lot of people are asking, even down below, and in this next question from Vlad Leva, I hope I pronounced that correctly, VLADLEIVA, asked, why was Rihanna eliminated so early? She was amazing every single moment, from casting to even her elimination photo. She had the Vogue look, and she was just eliminated, and she was eliminated in episode 4. Did you feel like she was eliminated too early? I actually really liked Rihanna. She had a very natural energy. I remember even in casting, I said, give me Weeping Willow, and then she just turned into a fashion pose. What do you think? Yeah, I mean, from purely a modeling standpoint, she had a lot of potential, in my opinion. And so from that aspect, I think she did leave too early. As the whole, whatever they're looking for, or whatever they were looking for in that moment, maybe she wasn't fitting all of the, checklists. But as far as a professional model, she's done really well since then, I think. And I think that she should have stayed on longer. She had a great look. So
I was shocked, to be honest with you. The episode she was eliminated, I remember I wasn't even in that judging, and I remember hearing, because they have to send to me, because I'm knowing for the next photo shoot, and I remember thinking, Rihanna, really? What? I didn't. It was a huge disconnect, but at that point I'm like, well, I'm working there and I just got to do my job. And it was so strange.
I think she could have made it further, for sure.
Yeah. So K_Vira, spelled QUE_WIRA, says, do you think Sarah, Kendall, and Jane should have made it further? Which girl were you rooting for? I love their looks. And Chelsey, which was your favorite photo shoot, and which was your least favorite? This person loved Patrick de Marchelier. It was his favorite shoot. But which was your favorite shoot, and which was your least favorite shoot?
Well, my most favorite, as far as how fun it was and the energy and what we did, was actually the motion editorial. That I thought that was a really fun day. It was really fun. It was fast paced, but it didn't feel overwhelming. There was only 4 of us.
Yes.
I really liked how it turned out.
It was
that
sexy.
was the funnest. Yeah, it was the funnest for me, from my perspective. I wish I could say that my favorite, how it turned out, was the Patrick de Marchelier one, because he's my idol he's my number 1 photographer. And I got to work with him, and my nerves totally got the best of me. And so I definitely, if I could turn back time and force myself to not be nervous, because that was
And
amazing.
yeah, working with Patrick, I've worked with Patrick before. So when he shoots, he just wants things in the moment. He's like, yes, love it, great, yeah, great, blah, 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 boom. And it's like a quick moment. And I can totally understand being a young, impressionable woman feeling like, this is Patrick Demarchelier. Like, how do you, like, that was a moment. I could see it on all your faces when I introduced him.
I wish I wouldn't have known who he was. Because I think I would have been more natural and could have done better, but it was still like, I don't regret it for the sake that I got to work with him. So even if it wasn't my best photo, it was still an awesome experience. My least favorite, I can't say that any of them were like unpleasant on stage, on set or anything like that, as far as being my least favorite, but the Matthew Ralston photo, my picture, it was not my best. And I did see some comments, people wondering if it was a lot of airbrushing, and it actually, at least for me, because he had a vision for the jewelry, for a clean, clean, like, and porcelain, perfect skin.
Yeah, no
it
freckles.
Took like 4 coats of makeup on my hands, on my arms, on my chest, neck, face, so much makeup. And
they retouched it, to
cover it, just to cover up the freckles that I could like barely move my face. And so it just wasn't something that, like, in the real world, I would never have been cast, going to go see for that job. I never would have been hired for that one. It just wasn't, it didn't fit what his vision was, didn't fit what I could offer. And so that was probably my least favorite, like, photo.
I remember that day. I was like, oh, because I love your freckles.
Oh,
so for me, I just was like, but I get Matthew. I mean,
right. Yeah. No shame to his vision. And it was beautiful. And most of the girls looked, everybody looked amazing in it, especially the ones that can wear makeup well.
I was looking backwards because I have a big Matthew Ralston book sitting over here. I love Matthew Ralston. And he's a creative genius. And there's a question coming up about it. We'll see. There was another question asking about, this was from Cameron.D_91 saying, yes, Chelsea's was my favorite from day one. And said, what was it like working with Patrick Demarchelier? So you already answered that. So we'll move on. But this one is Yoshovi. Let me spell it out. YOSOYISVI asked, how hard was it to consistently get these big names in the industry to participate in the show? And did you all ever get flack from any of them? Well, I kind of set up, there was this huge kind of stress and pressure to make this high fashion season, the network to Tyra, because the show started off with looking for the next top model. It kind of became its own thing for seasons. Now we're in cycle 15. Ratings were dropping. They felt like they had to go back. But even if you go back to season 1, it wasn't like super high fashion like that. And I think fans, as amazing as it was, we had Zach Pose and we had Andrea Leontali sitting there. We had Diane von Furstenberg, Patrick Demarchelier. We had every major person from the industry on the business, in the show, but it didn't really connect with fans for some reason. So I do think it was kind of difficult to kind of maintain that, but to answer that person's question, it just didn't work. But here's a question for you. A same person asked, you didn't talk about the parents coming on last cycle, but how does that work out, NDAs and whatnot? Because your parents were there. So let's talk about that. Were you surprised in that moment to see them?
Yes. What you saw on TV and Ann and I's reactions were absolutely real. It was the first time we saw them or heard that they were coming. Like, I watched it yesterday, and Ann sees them first, and then I look over to see what she's seeing, and we see them walk down the street. Like, it was super, super cool to see our parents there. And they weren't there very long. They got to stay for the runway, and then they left, and we didn't see them when they left but I never actually asked them. I'm assuming they had to sign some sort of something to not talk about.
Oh yeah, they signed paperwork. Yeah, of course.
But they didn't, but they didn't stay for like the announcement, when they announced who won. So when I came home, I mean, they didn't know who won.
But they saw the runway show. They were at the runway show, which I produced, with the mirror runway and everything.
Yes,
which tell them. Well, we can get to that. Well, we can talk about it now. So I wanted to kind of replicate this kind of cool runway. So I did a mirror runway, which was so hard to source the pieces. But so many big designers had done those mirror panels. And I found that location, because again, this is the one thing that I still produced on the show is the final runway. I love the location and designed the lighting for it so it all lit up at night. But to be honest with you, how I came up with the idea with that sliding wall with the logo? I was literally sitting and looking at the way that the sliding panels were on this like bathroom in the suite that I was staying on in Milan. And I went, wouldn't it be cool to have the Cavalli logo there and watch and reveal the girls like a magic trick? So it goes, so you guys had to walk with the panel.
Yes.
Then the
we had to walk like
going
in between them. Yeah.
So people don't, you had to
cool.
walk with it and then you pose really quickly and the panel kept moving and it was like a magic trick kind of thing. And the audience loved that reveal because it looked really cool who were watching the show. But tell them how slippery that runway was.
Which I think slippery. We had really, really high heels that had like velvet or suede tassels. And I remember they, at the very last minute, like PAs cutting the tassels because they were going, they were so long that we were like slipping and because it was so slick.
Yeah.
It was really cool.
And I think I remember that being something that I remember, I don't know if it made it on air, but I remember you coming off the runway going, oh my God, it's so slippery after the first walk. And and Krista was there who joined me from last Jay's chat. And she like nailed her runway walk because she hated her runway from the previous season. She even said that last week, which was funny. But yeah, I mean, that runway was, I loved the look of the runway. I thought it was successful. And, but yeah, there was a lot going on there. We also, a lot of people, there is a question coming up, but since so many of you are asking it down below, the challenge with the conveyor belt runway. And I remember Chelsey, it's on air, you come off and you go like, fuck, they had to blur your mouth.
There was a swear word. I'm glad it was blurred out. It scared the crap out of me. It was so much faster. So they let the guys practice. The male models were in like Converse sneakers. Yeah. And they let them practice on it ahead of time. So we kind of like peeked out and watched and we're like, oh, it doesn't look that slow or it doesn't look that fast. I don't know if they sped it up for us or it was just faster. It was just faster because we were in heels. I don't know. But I was the first one and we're like, oh, it doesn't look that bad. And so we go out there, like I just take my first step and it's boom. It was like you do a slow jog on that fast of a runway. It was
what happened was I was not there, and that was part of a challenge, teach challenge. So first of all, people say, how realistic is that? Well, Chanel, several designers, but I remember specifically Chanel has done a runway with a conveyor belt down the middle. Yeah. And the models had to get on and take a conveyor belt to the end and then walk downstairs and walk off. So this has been done with high fashion. However, you are absolutely right. It was slower. And the producers, and I heard this was all whispered. Well, actually, Miss J told me the whole thing, what happened. He was there. He was like, girl, they sped it up. It was going to be boring because you guys would just get on it and walk and get off. And they wanted something for TV. So that is the T. They wanted something. Yeah. They sped it up. And I felt horrible when I saw it. I was like, whoop.
Yeah, I was really bummed ahead of me first, but because I'm like, the male models are doing it, like doesn't look that bad, even though we're in heels, like it's not that fast. And so that's the thought I had going out there. And then it was not. So yeah, it was interesting.
I
remember
sure. watching you. It was terrible. So this gentleman from before, Livia, same VLADLEIVA, said, Chelsey, we know about the power of editing, and I've talked about that every week on the Jay's chat. So you seemed to have like this tense rivalry with Anne towards the end. Was that editing, or was there really tension between you two?
So
in the final episode, they edited it to make it seem like there was like a rivalry.
Right. And I had to watch the final episode with her live in LA. We were really close, especially in the final 4 and in the final 2, those days that we worked together for Vogue Italia. We stayed, everybody sequestered away from us. So we only had each other. We only had each other in the model house, and we got really, really close. But I was honest. And when they would do their interviews with me, you can't answer a question. Like, you can't just say, yes, I think I should have won. They feed you. They bait you. they say, do you think Anne is the whole package? And I can't say, no, I don't think so. I have to answer it as a
Yeah,
sentence. So
of course.
answered it. No, I don't think Anne is the whole package. I think I am the whole package. So everything I said was, in that
Power of
moment, and
editing.
it was about that episode. They didn't pull it from like 4 weeks ago and, put it in that episode. It was pertaining to that episode. But because I had to answer it like it was coming from me, it did come out. It looked a little afterwards. I remember sitting there with her. I can't remember where we watched it at, but afterwards I remember thinking, I just sat her down and said, I hope you know that I love you. And when I said those things, like I wanted to win, and I thought I should have won. But you won, and you're deserving, and you're amazing, and she is an amazing person. So
She was wonderful.
Her and I were fine, and we still are. So,
and you know what's really interesting? What people don't realize. So, because the producers and as I said, David, who does a lot of those interviews with you girls, we don't know who's going to win a lot of the time. So, what they do is they have to produce those interviews to get questions that fit the edit. It's all about the edit. So I can pretty much guarantee Anne was asked the exact same question.
Yeah.
And the thing is, because in the edit, it's got to skew, like, so that the viewer is watching going, oh yeah, Anne has to win. Because you can't have someone win and then the viewers feel emotionally invested in someone else, because then viewers get pissed. So they have to kind of edit. And I know you personally, you are nothing but respectful and a lovely person, and you were a joy to work with. I know how they ask questions. So I always felt badly that it came off looking a little salty, because you are not that person at all.
And honestly, the only person I worried and made sure that she was okay was Anne. It was my truth. I really did feel like in that moment I was the package. But that was my personal view, and that was coming from seeing each week. And, I'm not looking at it as a fan. As a fan, I could see their perspective as well. But from my point of view, each week going through and the feedback I'm getting from you and from Nigel and from Tyra and from the photographers on set, I felt like, there were dips. There was weeks where I was like, oh gosh, I can't believe I made it this round, but so that was my truth. And that's why I answered the question.
So everyone, and everyone is chiming in like, please get to this part, because everyone wants to know about go-sees. Like someone's on their go-see. When I tell you, we've had like 15 go-sees go by, and I saw Michael from Slutty Puffin on there. Hey boo, love you. But let's just say right now, you talk about go-sees. You went through those. You got to walk for the House of Versace. Talk about the go-sees. Everyone wants to know about it.
Okay. So in a typical model world in New York, when I was modeling there, I'd go on 9, 10, 12 go-sees or castings a day, because I had a Metro card and I could get in a taxi. I could get in on the subway, and it's pretty basic. Like New York is a grid. You go that way or that way. You get lost occasionally in the side cities and streets, but Milan was super hard to navigate. They didn't have street signs. It was written like on the sides of walls. We couldn't take certain transportation. I can't remember. Like I know I took a train, like a subway once, but on the show, they make it seem like these 4 clients are just kind of in the hub, the middle of Milan. They were so far spread out. Like at one point, the second one that I made it to, it was for the runway show, the runway guy. I was running, and the mic and camera, the boom people, the guys behind me were like, slow down. I'm like, no, I'm running. I gotta go. So I did most of it on foot, and it was spread out all across Milan. I mean, I don't even know how many miles we walked. And every time we asked for help, the PAs, the production assistants, would have to stop us. We would have to stop, have them sign something, because if that part goes on TV,
See, that's the part people don't realize. Like, the producers cannot help you. You have a camera person, you have a sound and a PA, and those people cannot help you. But you could ask someone. But it slows it down. It slowed it down. They got to sign a release.
I did it like once or twice, and I got to wait for the camera and boom. I got to wait for those people to kind of keep up with me to a certain point. And so,
Yeah.
you know, after like one or two, I was like, okay, I'm not asking for any more help. I don't got time for this. So
Yeah.
it 4 go-sees and only making 2 was disappointing, but I barely made it. I made it back in like minutes because
Yeah.
it was so spread out from each other. We couldn't just hop in a cab and say, take me to this building.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was intense. I have never like, I was sweating, and this is in July in Milan. So
Yeah.
it was so hot and sweaty, but it was a great experience. It was my
A lot.
birthday that day.
Oh, that's
So it was a
right.
fun,
I guess right. Yeah, I
it was a
remember
fun challenge to win on my birthday, but I'm like, gosh, I can't believe I only made 2. They were disappointed, but you know, when you
By the way, a
watch,
lot of people have asked here in the questions and right below while you've been talking, if there was an All Stars 2, Chelsey, would you consider going back for an All Stars 2?
well, I mean, like, am I
Wait.
too old? I'm 33. Like, I feel like I'm a little old for the world of
Well,
modeling now.
but we have supermodels like Naomi is, you know,
Right,
50
because she's
and being like,
Naomi. You know, like
yeah.
that top percent of supermodels can be older or
Well,
whatever.
let's say age wasn't an issue and they said, you know what, Chelsey, you're a contender. Would you go back? Really?
I absolutely would.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Well, that's
it was
me,
a
one
great.
of us.
And it
I wouldn't
honestly,
be there probably.
I would do it because I know, I feel like I have a behind the scenes look now. You know, before I was so green on all of it. As far as like the TV and the production part, like, you know, I wouldn't be so nervous, and I
You
feel
should
like
talk
I
to
could.
the girls who did the All Stars 1. They might
Right.
give you different
Well, and
advice.
yeah, I don't know what their experience was like on it, so I guess maybe I would have to ask them before I answer for sure. But
And a lot of
you
people are
know,
asking to talk about makeovers. So if you did tune in part way, this will be up in IGTV. It'll also be up on YouTube. You guys can watch. We did talk about makeovers. I did want to get another question from Yoso Yizvi. I pronounced it. I spelled his name before. Was there any correlation with the Missoni being a guest and their collection with Target when it came out? I guess they were trying to branch out into the US. There was a slight connection there. And to be honest with you, the other kind of shady kind of bit of tea is, yes, we had people like myself, Miss J, you know, Tyra, obviously, knowing about fashion, but the producers behind the show, who produced, like the showrunner, knew nothing about fashion. I mean, nothing. Learned as he went along. So when Missoni came along and said, oh, can we do something? I remember him coming to me and going, Jay, Missoni wants to do something. What's Missoni? Is that a big deal? And I remember thinking, oh my God, like we're in cycle 15.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of a big deal. He's like,
A little
okay,
bit.
we'll do it. Just crazy.
Oh, wow.
So Argentina.antm said, I don't understand why Chelsey didn't win. She had such passion and drive for the industry and her photos were awesome. And we know that Anne had 6 first call outs, but Chelsey won a lot of the challenges in the Go season, the Vogue Italia. So why? I don't know the answer why. As I told you early on, and for those people tuning in, at that final judging, and I do know also who Roberto voted for, we voted for you. We were like, Chelsey should win. So
awesome.
yeah, I just wanted to kind of put that back out there.
Makes me feel very good. You know, because at the end of the day, I feel like everything happens for a reason. I have a beautiful life. I don't regret anything I did on the show.
Great. Yeah.
Of course, I wish I would have won, but my life would probably look different now if I did. And I don't know if you know, maybe the time that I had in New York in the high fashion world when I was 18, 19, maybe that was my time that I was supposed to have.
So people down here
was the end.
People, that's actually a beautiful sentiment. I didn't mean to cut you off. And I agree with you. Like our lives all move on and you've got beautiful children and you're happy. And that's the important part of life. Yeah. But so many people keep writing, please tell us about Chris. So Chris was eliminated in the 10th episode. So you guys all keep saying Chris. So what is the scoop specifically that you guys want to know? Do you know what they're referring to, Chelsey? Like what's going on? Because you guys have to write specifically what you want to know about Chris down below. So chime in, guys.
Yeah, I don't know anything specific other than maybe they wish she would have stayed. I mean, she was kind of doing well, especially once we got to, she was hitting a good stride. And then I think it was the statuesque shoot.
It was when you guys were marbleized.
Yeah. And so, I mean, honestly, we were down to the bottom of us. So I think they just had to basically go with who didn't do the best or who did,
Yeah.
you know, because I don't
So
think it was her body of work that made her be.
yeah. Well, week to week, really, the judges were always judging on the weakest link. So that's the thing you guys got to keep in mind. So I do remember, I actually really loved the whole marble photo shoot.
Yeah,
It was really cool. There was some kind of tension between Nigel and I that day because, you know, in the past, I was always hiring all the creative and doing all the creative. This season, I wasn't producing it. So, you know, Nigel felt like he could just kind of bulldoze in. It was a bit of an uncomfortable shoot for me. I don't know if you noticed the tension there. I would talk, then he would talk, then I would talk, then he would talk. And I was just like,
I don't remember.
Nigel, if you want to do you, Nigel, go ahead. I just was like, I couldn't really deal with it. There were all these just kind of weird power plays because everything had shifted this cycle. And then Nigel was, it was not comfortable. We get along today. It's fine. But then it was like, just, whatever it was.
It was a weird day. And I remember, I don't know if it was so hot and so they had these trailers with showers for us to shower off the paint or whatever it was. And they stopped working and they ran out of power or something like that. So it was this big, long, I remember sitting next to Nigel in one of them because it was the only place that had air conditioning and like a break. And I remember thinking, like, I had just gotten out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm just chilling here with Nigel Barker. Like, we're just chilling because he was so hot, just trying to catch a second with, you know, out of the heat. But it was a weird, hot, long day for sure.
Yeah, it was like really weird energy, but it was beautiful. It was beautiful and picturesque, and the photos were great. That's for sure. Disney Jakey said the mermaid shoot was my absolute favorite shoot. Did you or Matthew Ralston come up with the creative? I love how hands-on he was. So again, this cycle, I wasn't producing the creative at all. I showed up to work. But Matthew Ralston specifically, being such a genius, and when he agreed to come on the show, he said he wanted to dictate his own creative completely. And of course, the show was like, remember, the show had this pressure to raise ratings and be high fashion. So if Matthew Ralston is saying he wants to do his creative, you went with Matthew Ralston, which I think was a smart choice with the producers. And he did it. And Matthew Ralston has always been that hands-on. I've worked with him outside of the show. Yeah. He is a brilliant photographer and creative visionary. So that is the truth of it. Ashley Morgan says, Chelsey, you said you didn't. Oh, we answered this question already. It was about the editing at the end and how that worked. So we answered this about the photographer. Sorry, just because I know we're towards the end. We just asked, this was Olivia.Tamac, do the girls get help taking their makeup off, especially the statue shoot? No. Which was yes. So, you guys had to shower it off though.
Right. Yeah. Well, and then the stuff got stuck in our hair and it was like, it wouldn't come out with water. So we had to get like dish soap, and most of us either had to get our colors retouched up before it was time. I think most of the girls that had weaves had to have, like, it was coming out in clumps, like we could not get it out of our hair.
I totally forgot. Didn't we have to redo the girls'
we all had, Anne's had to be redone. I don't know about Chris's, but Anne's had to be redone, I know. And like Kayla's hair.
And that was all off camera because we didn't shoot that. Yeah.
Kayla's red hair lost all of the color, and so we had to recolor hers. They touched up mine. Just because I don't think they realized how it would react or how it would come off. Yeah. So, but typically on a typical set, I think, go home and take off our own makeup.
Yeah. And probably they would have done a better job at protecting hair, because today, with wigs and stuff, you could do like a lace wig and mold that whole thing and like protect your own hair underneath. Yeah. But I totally forgot about that. We had to redo the weaves and everything. I remember everyone was panicking behind the scenes. Yeah,
because it wasn't set up to be like, like it wasn't in the schedule. I remember them saying it's not in the schedule to have like the makeover touch-ups, but Anne still had it in her hair, one of the panels. One of the panels, she still had like a big chunk of like clay in her hair. It just would not come out.
So everyone keeps saying down below, and it was a question here, why didn't Tyra shoot with Anne? There was always a winner photo at the end of every season. And there wasn't one. Now, again, because people called me out the last few weeks, I haven't been, quote unquote, spilling tea. And there's no shade to this because I don't know the real answer. I do know that Tyra had made some friends with people when she did her kind of Harvard course the summer before. And they were there in Milan. So whenever she had off days, she hung out with them. And I do know this. So that final runway show, sorry, the final judging, what did happen after the announcement and everything happened, literally, like, because I was sitting there and, Roberto Cavalli was sitting on my left. And when we were done, they were said, okay, we're done. We're clear. Tyra didn't even turn around to us at the judging panel. She just walked down and out of the studio. And that was the end of the season. And I remember Laura Fust, who was one of the EP or co-EPs, were like, everyone looked around like, what just happened? Like, there was no like, great season, everyone, good show, good. She just walked out of the room and like everybody was dumbstruck. Like, it was just like, what just happened? And Roberto turned to me. He's like, well, I want to go say goodbye and thank you so much.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, she's having a meeting in her dressing room, and she didn't greet him. And he came to me and said, and asked me, did I do something? And I was like, no, I had to like lie at the time. I had to say, no, like she's busy. And it was really awkward. But that was like the only time she ever did that. But I don't know what was going on. Maybe something was going on. Something serious was maybe going on. I don't know. I can't speak to it because I never asked her about that moment. It was really weird. Weird moment. But since we're at the end of our hour, what else do you got? Everyone's going tea. Oh, Yusai, I just saw you. I know, Yusai, I'm pouring tea. Is that horrible? I'm just trying to tell truth because I don't slam Tyra at all. I actually really respect every door that she has kicked down. She's a powerful businesswoman. She has, kicked down doors for so many, especially young kind of brown and black girls and boys, out there and giving them an opportunity. And she was the first Black woman on Sports Illustrated, et cetera. I really do respect Tyra on that business front and everything she represents. So I don't want anyone to think that there's anything negative going on. But, and yeah, someone said she's sweet. She could have been having a bad day. And it's true. We all have bad days. Although I do think when we all have bad days, we still always have to find ways to respect one another. That's how I feel about it. But
my biggest question people ask me when they find out I was on the show is, how's Tyra in real life? Because you get a certain view of her like in the panels on TV. And I don't have any idea what it would be like working for her or being, production or directing or any of that kind of stuff. But just purely as a contestant, she was so much nicer than I think she is portrayed, at least in previous seasons before mine. She was really, really sweet. The episode, the panel with the Missoni winter wear, when I'm like passing out and they stopped the camera. So the reason it was so hot, nobody knows this, is because the AC system in that room was so old and
it was
so loud. It was so loud. So they had to turn it off when the cameras were rolling. So they'd stop, they'd cut the camera, and then all these PAs would run over with like apple juice and wet washcloths. And Tyra kicked her heels off and walked down, had me sit down and like pulled my leggings off.
Yeah, Tyra was lovely. I totally remember that.
Unpinned the turtleneck on me, and she was like, we're just going to take a second and everybody's going to get okay. Everybody was making sure we were okay. And so she was.
Tyra is very respectful for the girl. Like, she really cared about your comfort. That's true. And I know Tyra was very, very genuine in that moment, and none of that was on camera. And that was her genuine concern for you guys. Yeah. And by the way, I know Yusai is in here and everyone's saying, Yusai. I love Yusai, by the way. Super, super talented photographer. And Yusai, I'm going to tell you, we need to pass the baton, because everyone's saying here that, because I'm going to be done with Jay's chats, talking about America's Next Top Model behind the scenes at cycle 18. I think Yusai should take over for the cycles that he did, and you should do the chats. So Yusai, I'm passing that baton to you. Just thought I'd say that. So you guys heard it here. Are there any last things, Chelsey, that you'd like to share about the show?
I would say that at least for our season, what you guys saw, it was pretty real. This is my first experience with a reality TV show. And towards the end, things may get cut in a way that portrays certain things, but it's coming out of my mouth. It's my opinion. like somebody, I kept getting questions about the hair agenda, that prank, you know, that was not staged, that was not scripted. Like there is no scripting, you know,
Script.
There's no script. There's a producer phone in the house that if we need something, or if they need to tell us to go to bed and or be quiet or quit talking without your mics on in bed, you know?
Yeah.
But other than that, it was just us.
Which we should tell fans that. So at night, what would happen is you guys would get demiked, and then the lights would be turned off, and they say, okay, it's sleep time. You can't talk now. But if I was a contestant, that would be my time to go, girl, Chelsey,
girls are,
what the fuck just happened?
You know, they're whispering, and they can hear us, and so they'd call if it got too bad. In the shower or at bed was the only time we were demiked. But other than that, so, you know, we were just left to ourselves. We couldn't have radios or, you know, iPods or anything like that, except unless we were like in the vans on the way to a shoot. So we were just left to ourselves, and most of us, minus a couple exceptions, all got along so well. I mean, we might've made boring TV, but we had fun, and it was an amazing experience. And
that's good.
I feel like I don't regret anything, and I'm just thankful that I got the opportunity and that people liked our season. So,
oh my God. Well, I'm so glad that I got to do this with you today. This is so much fun, Chelsey. I told you it would like fly by. We've been talking.
I know,
for over an hour. It's like, boom, it just disappears.
Yeah.
But again, as I said to you, honestly, and there's no bullshit with me. I think everybody knows that. I really did love Anne. I totally saw her potential. I got what everyone else was saying. I personally voted for you to win. I know the runway probably threw you because it was a little slick, and they were kind of like, but her runway walk was off. But
it was
I personally loved your body of work.
Oh,
I felt you should have been in that winner of that cycle. So I'm so glad that you could join me on this chat today.
Well, I'm honored. Thanks for having me.
It's been a lot of fun.
I'm honored that you asked me. So thank you.
Oh my God. I was like, you guys, I sent her an email. I was like, Chelsey, you have to do this. So I'm so glad that we could chat today. And
me too.
I know your kids probably keep you running around too. I know quarantine, you got to keep them entertained.
Yeah. Longest summer ever. So that's all I have to say. But it's been good.
Thanks to all the fans that tuned in. And guys, next week, Jay's chat, I will be back doing cycle 16, and my book comes out on Monday. And guess what, Chelsey? You have to text me your mailing address, because I am going to send you your own copy.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to send you a copy. I'm going to sign it and write a personal note to you. Please text me your mailing address.
I will, for sure.
So you get it. And thank you again, guys, for tuning in. And we'll be back next week.
All right,
see everybody.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.